Hello and welcome to the fourth match of the 6th week of the FSL Season 2. We're in Overgrowth, spawning to the top right hand corner in teal, playing Zerg for Team Hush. It's NoveaStar. And to the bottom right, in red, playing Terran for Euronics Gaming. It's Sylvanas. Pretty short rush distances on this map, and we've seen Sylvanas play versus Zerg quite a bit just throughout this season, so we can expect a Reaper opening, I guess, into her typical Marine drop with Mine push, but maybe she's going to change it up a little bit. Thus far we have the Barracks and the Refinery, so a Reaper is pretty probable right now. And in the meantime we have Novea opening with the typical Zerg build, getting the hatch first into pool, into gas, into pool. Sorry for that little hiccup there. Overlords already making their ways towards the backside of Sylvanas' main base, so that it will later on be able to fly in and get some scouting information, while the other Overlord just checks for the main base, is probably headed towards that high ground where you can just see a large part of the entrance towards the natural base, and it will also be able to scout whether a natural base has already been taken or not, which Sylvanas is already planning to do, because she has already drove down her little SCV to the low ground in order to plant down the command center, and there it is. So in the meantime, SCV also getting some scouting information, didn't even bother to get inside the main base. The timing of the natural base just tells Sylvanas everything that she wants to know for now. Doesn't really need to get in, doesn't really need to see gas. It has become very uncommon for Zerg to play gasless anymore, since the first Reaper that's out would just punish this so hard, because you would just delay your own spawning pool, and you would also delay your first queen. Thus you would normally use a lot of drones towards that Reaper. Defending the Reaper, the first Reaper, would just become such a nuisance. I mean, it very often still is a nuisance, but yeah, starting with 3 hatches before pool is just something you don't even do anymore. And once you get pool, you usually just also want to have the speed early on because of mass Reaper opening possibilities and such things. So like I said before, it has become very uncommon. So that's why Sylvanas doesn't really need to check for that. And the hatchery just told her everything she needed to know at that point in time. So the van is just running back, has the Reapers still in position, so it will be able to gather some more scouting information, especially whether Novea is taking a third base or not. And that information is just gathered immediately, so Sylvanas already having all the information that she could ever want to have right now. So Hellion opening this time around, quite interesting here. She gets a starport behind it, and of course the barracks now having a tech lab added in order to get out stim as soon as possible after having pumped out the first few defensive marines. Still kind of a greedy techie opening here. I mean, she has gotten her base on the low ground, hasn't even walled off that area, just starts right now. Of course, that was why she wanted to get the information whether a third hatchery had been thrown down or not, since these 300 minerals that had been invested into a hatchery are now not available for Novea to produce a lot of units and just overrun her while she's not walled off. So Sylvanas actually knows that there is no threat headed her way anytime soon, so she just ramps up the aggression herself, sends across the map a few Hellions over here, and just wants to see whether she might be able to get a queen or a few lings, maybe even a few drones that have been transferred over to here, might even be able to just get a lava, which is also something neat to have. So if you really can't get in because there are queens and a few defensive units and you can't really deal the damage without taking too much damage yourself, you might as well just take whatever you get, like creep tumors, like the eventual ling here and there, and like I said, maybe even some lava if possible. But Novea transitioned right into Roaches, while actually Sylvanas just transitioned into Hellions, into Banshees right after the Hellions, because that's just a typical follow-up and always has been since the early beginnings of Wings of Liberty. So Banshee just flying across the map will have Cloak available in just a few seconds, probably not before it arrives, but Sylvanas decides to just wait a little longer with the Banshee here until she's actually capable of cloaking it as well, and then it will actually deal some more damage, although there's unfortunately only one drone in here so far. But she might be able to fly into the natural base, but there's a Spore Crawler in place, so she won't really be able to deal that much damage. Of course, still being a nuisance, just harassing that hatchery over here, whittling it down eventually. Unless NoveaStar finds a possibility to drive that pesky Banshee away. She has the supply depot down, but there are Widow Mines in position. Doesn't really have the watchtowers at all, neither player does, which is a little bit unfortunate, I feel. Queen getting over, trying to drive away that Banshee. Banshee still has a lot of energy left for cloaking, so the Banshee takes it out. Okay, Sylvanas now realizes Banshee not doing anything, so just flies in and out once more. Don't really know why she's doing it. I think she could have taken down that Spore Crawler before it popped, but maybe she wasn't sure about how long it would still take in order to take it out, and before it popped, so she just decided to fly back for now, maybe getting in a little bit later to deal some more damage, maybe in the main base, maybe picking off a drone that harvests an extractor here or there. Now just sending across a few more harassment units in order to take out any drones that might have been replaced over in here. And if we just have a look at the drone count, we see that they're pretty even, with Sylvanas actually being ahead in workers, and she has mules, but of course she's still down one base, although that base doesn't really count yet, since it's not really saturated at all. So they're mostly on the same economy here, while Sylvanas is now taking her third base, only a little bit later actually than the Zerg player, and she now even starts toasting some more drones over at the third base. So very good position here for Sylvanas indeed. Has now two Banshees in position. Obviously they flew in a little bit, trying to take out a few more workers. We're obviously not that successful. I mean, we have 2 kills on that Banshee, 3 kills on that one. So yeah, rather successful. I mean, not losing them, but taking out a few drones is always worse. It's always worth what you're doing there. And now Sylvanas just got what she wanted, got her third base up uncontestedly, is now even on bases, but actually does have more workers, does have 4 mules, and we can just see how far ahead in income she is and will be for the next minute at least until these mules expire. So Novea just trying to get back into a comfortable position, just tries to drone like crazy in order to finally saturate her third base. But I think the more important part would be to actually take a fourth, or even finding out that her opponent is already on 3. She might expect her opponent to be on 3 already, but yeah, she really needs to do something against it. I mean, she either wants to have a fourth base of her own in order to out-macro her opponent, or she just wants to deny the third base. But one of both she really needs to do. And now Sylvanas actually comes with a first big push over here. The only thing that Novea has are mostly Ravagers and a few Roaches in here. Tanks siege up right now. The first few balls will actually hit the first tank, but only getting the first one. The other tanks still dealing amounts of damage together with the Widow Mines in place and the Marauders as well. And Sylvanas still has lost a lot of army units right here. Doesn't really want to engage too much onto creep, I feel. And especially with the tank not siege, just retreats a little bit, but will probably just either lose all of this or just has to retreat out completely here, just leaving the Widow Mine behind. And Novea has at least pushed away that little push and attack by Sylvanas for now. Sylvanas already gathering a few more units off of her 3 base economy. Both players actually floating a few resources here, more than they would actually like to have, and Sylvanas just uses the overmints in order to throw down a whole frick ton of barracks. So once these are finished, she will just have the possibility to produce Marines until GG. And this will just help out her second push tremendously. Novea realizes that she really needs to take a 4th base right now, but it's still pretty late considering how long Sylvanas has already been sitting on her third one, but of course Sylvanas also would like to have another one, I feel. I mean, like I said before, she had a lot of minerals floating, just used them for a lot of barracks here. I feel she could have also just used 400 minerals more to just throw down command center over here, or if she didn't really feel that she wants to put it out that exposed, she could have also produced it over here and then just maybe fly it over a little bit later. But for now it seems as if she just wants to commit to some sort of final push here. And if we just have a look, she has 107 army supply to 80 already, and that's not a comfortable position for a Zerg player here. Unfortunately for both, actually, they now just miss each other on the middle of the map, so passing each other's army, which means that Novea might actually go for the base trade. We'll see it. No, it seems as if she just wants to go for full auto retreat. Was just trying to get some more Ravagers over here. Actually did, and now we also have the multi-prong attack, nicely done by Sylvanas here, getting in, even getting the Roach Warren, which is like Novea's main tech here for units. I mean, she has mostly Ravagers, just no Roaches at all. Okay, there are some Roaches in the mix and a few Hydras, but yeah, Roaches, Ravagers were actually the most important thing for her. Sylvanas might even get the Hydralisk then as well, and then actually all that Novea needs in order to reproduce an army that can actually attack and make use of the upgrades is just gone. So whatever she loses right here, she will not be able to replace for quite some long time. Doesn't even have the time right now to take care of replacing the tech buildings. So yeah, I mean, she really has to fend off this push comfortably and then just rebuild everything before the next push comes, and I don't really see that happening. I mean, have a look at these supplies. Novea just dropping below 100, Sylvanas almost max, still dealing tons of damage in the main base, even having taken out the lair, I think it was. So yeah, just Novea trying to make her last stand maybe inside her natural base, but she's already down to like one mining base. This fourth is still up, but there's no way in hell to even saturate it right now. Sylvanas going into 3-3, while her opponent is at least on 2-2, but has no army, so to speak of. GG's out, and Sylvanas takes the first game for an 1-0 lead. Daybreak is our second map. The good old Wings of Liberty map from the old glorious days of the beginnings of StarCraft 2. Very old map. My god, I don't know how many seasons it took until this map came up, but I think it's still part of the Wings of Liberty map pool until today. So it has been part of the Wings of Liberty map pool until today. So if you play on the Wings of Liberty ladder, I think you should still have this one and have played this a lot. So Sylvanas going for the refinery and the barracks, so we will see the eventual Reaper. But yeah, since she's changed it up a little bit, in the first map, we might even see something different this time around, or maybe the drop once more. I mean, this map is really drop friendly. You have a lot of wide open space where dropships can just fly in and fly out. You also have a lot of free open space in order to park liberators to deny mining. So even from that point up, I mean, this point is a little bit closer. It's difficult to put a liberator into here, but yeah, multi-prong harassment is something you can do really well. It's kind of easy for Zerg to take 3 bases, although the third base is a little bit further away, and it's also pretty exposed because it has a wide open ramp. But actually, wide open spaces are not that bad for Zerg. They are more probable, or they're more of a problem for a Terran player, for example, or a Protoss player, where you also have to defend this part somehow, and walling off is not really an option. So yeah, playing on 2 bases, not that big of a problem, although the entrance towards your natural is also pretty big. But yeah, getting a third base might cause some problems in here. So let's see what Sylvanas has actually planned out, and if she really wants to take a third base at all, or if she just wants to end the game before it goes that long. And of course we also need to know what Novea is up to. She's already getting her speed upgrade for the links, nothing all too uncommon. We have a factory once more right behind the barracks. So, but still, it could just be with a reactor. Maybe she wants to go for Hellions again. Maybe she just wants to have it in order to get the Medivacs out a little bit sooner and then just do another drop. But she's also, again, taking the command center on the low ground, trying to get it mining as soon as possible. So at the same time, Novea trying to saturate her natural base, has some safety links out, hasn't even committed to just scout the front of her opponent's base for now, I feel. No, she just has seen the first gas, might just fly in a little bit later with this overload over here in order to see if these gases have been taken. Actually, she can already see it, so once the Sylvanas should take those, Novea would see and would realize what's going on. Novea just transitioning into an early third base, but like I said, her vision is kinda limited. I mean, she has this overload in a good position, so if Sylvanas' units were to move out via the typical AI-controlled route, she would usually see it. But of course, if Sylvanas, for example, just decided to attack the third base and use this pathway over here, and then just walk across the map right into the third base, over here, she might not even be able to see it, and they're the Hellions, so she doesn't really know anything about them. And with these watchtowers, this might have been avoided. So, Hellions now moving in, there are queens in position, so I feel if Novea is careful enough and just watching everything, especially the edges of her creep, she should just realize what's going on, and these Hellions shouldn't really be able to deal that much damage. I mean, 3 are now here, they might be able to just pick off a Ling, but now they have to retreat before the first one might be lost. Should of course check for, there's the 4th Hellion now, should of course check for the 3rd base, I feel, before just running in once more, because you can't really kill queens with just 4 Hellions, it would just take forever, and wouldn't really work for anything else. Novea just wants to go into her same unit composition once more, building the Hydra Den right after the Roach Warren and the Lair, of course, which you need in order to get a Hydralisk Den. So she wants to go Roach, Ravager, Hydra once more. It's quite an effective army composition after the patch, since Hydras now have the upgrades, the range upgrade, which makes them so much better, plus the speed upgrade you just have to get with an additional upgrade there. Okay, seems as if she might be able to just barely, or not just barely save, and needs to wait some time, just pulls in the queens, unfortunately right on the liberation zone, which is usually, unfortunately, a little bit of bad micro mistake there by Novea. She would have usually just wanted to move these queens around. Don't really feel that that was a good move by Sylvanas, just exploiting her, not just exploiting, sorry, just exposing her, Liberator over here. I mean, of course, by now the Ravagers were out, so it wouldn't have really mattered that much wherever the Liberator was sieged, but sieging it like sideways so that the queens could actually reach it way easier than before. Don't know if that was really the best move, but it feels as if Sylvanas just wanted to do some more damage, actually getting a few more drones over here. Will manage to actually kill 15 drones in the process, so I'd call that kind of an effective push. Still, Novea is up in supply, 72 to 60, and if we just have a look at the SCV count, well, that's actually better for Sylvanas here. So we have more SCVs, more mules, more income. Well, mostly the same, since actually it feels that Novea just has a little bit of a better saturation here than Sylvanas being only on 2 bases. But Sylvanas has already managed to get an orbital command out, flies it over to the 3rd base, and there's actually no spy for Novea over here as well, so she doesn't really know whether her opponent has already taken a base or not. I really feel that Novea doesn't really want to scout all too much or just to get distracted by what her opponent does. Feels to me as if she just wants to securely drone up on 3 bases and then just start massing units like crazy, overwhelming her opponent with sheer masses and upgrades. So far it hasn't really worked out for her in the first game. Let's see if she can pull it off in the second one. Her biggest problem right now are still air units and drops, of course, because she doesn't really have that much of effective anti-air units around. She has the Ravagers, but the Ravagers are only really good against stational air units like the Liberator. Any fast units like Medivacs or Banshees you should actually never be able to hit, because the opponent can just micro them out of the bile fire, no problem. If, of course, the opponent is paying attention. So, first push by Novea now has some roaches and one little Hydra in the mix. Yeah, Liberator gets down, siege tanks are already in position, no way to engage upwards that ramp here. And Novea realizes it right away, just pulls back completely. She really needs to check for the third, I feel. I mean, the third is way more exposed, there's just one bunker right here. The siege tanks now need to unsiege and then re-siege. The rest of the army just has to move over there as well. Also the Liberator has to unsiege and re-siege. I feel that she might have been able to deal some damage over here at least with the units she just sent out. Trying to take a 4th base has probably... I mean, that's also kind of odd. I mean, you take a 4th base at a point where you would guess, okay, if I'm now taking a 4th base, my opponent should probably be in possession of a 3rd base herself, so I might just waddle over there and try to attack it, but no, she does. Just regathered a few forces, now just moves across the map, but Sylvanas just sees it via the watchtower. That's why watchtowers are so important and why you normally just want to clear them out, and she already sets her army in motion, at least unsieges a whole lot of it. I don't know if that is really a good move. Command over here. Yeah, Sylvana just realizes what she's done, just pulls them back for a little bit, but now most of the units are actually split up, and fortunately for Sylvanas, Novea actually doesn't know it. It seems as if Sylvanas actually wants to, I don't know if she wants to secure this area over here, or if she just wants to move out for a push. Seems as if she just wants to prepare something as long as Novea is unaware of Sylvanas' move out here. So yeah, brings the tanks into position, just moves in with the Buyer, tries to lure Novea's units right into her siege tank fire, but this could actually be kind of an okay fight if Novea were to move in right now, since the siege tanks had not been sieged at that point in time. But of course there's also some bioforce in here, which is also quite scary, so I feel that that Novea just decides that she doesn't really want to attack that army at all. Retreats completely, waiting for a few more units, but there's not that many units to be built anymore. She's almost maxed out, and again, both armies just passing by each other. We might see some sort of base race over here. Yeah, Sylvanas definitely committed, just moves in, sieges the Liberators, sieges the tanks, a little bit too far behind maybe, but yeah, she just wants to have a retreating point if the army of Novea were to move in. Novea just decides to pull back completely, but the 4th base has already fallen. Siege tanks moving forwards, maybe a little bit too much forward. Yeah, Novea just taking care of those before they can even give off a shot, but there are more siege tanks in the back. We also have the Bio firing, not all of the Bio actually firing at all the units that Sylvanas really would them like to fire. Now they're both just, yeah, in the just sandwiched from both angles here, and finally Sylvanas just has to load up and move out, but still not really a biggie for her. I mean, she can reproduce her army quite easily. Bio is pretty expendable. The tanks are not as much, but I think she managed to, no, just only actually not saving one not saving any tanks of that attack, but she already has reproduced once more. And the good thing is that she is on the same amount of bases as her opponent, and she has a 4th base already made and flies it out in order to get the position. So the only really thing she needs to do right now is to just make sure, whoa, that's really daring, moving out of that, having that few army and then just loading in so many units in order to fly for a drop. That's like really daring, knowing that your opponent has just beaten your army and not lost her army completely. But yeah, okay, she now realizes what's happening, just moves behind the army, has to make sure that she actually defends that third base. Losing that third base would just be a terrible loss here for Novea, for Sylvanas, sorry. But Novea also has to be careful. She doesn't really want to engage upwards that ramp. That could just mean terrible death to her. And Sylvanas also has to be careful not to lose too many units to the Bile Fire, but now she stims afterwards the units, trying to take out as many of those as she can. Has to be careful not to stand right under those Biles, and the Biles almost hit everything, so a lot of Bile just dies. Unfortunately, Sylvanas just dropping down to under 100 supply. That's normally the tipping point where the game cannot really be saved anymore. Novea, in the meantime, has managed to take a 4th and a 5th base straight away. Sylvanas will not be able to get that 3rd base down, has just lost all of her army here. A terrible loss for her, and I think she won't really be able to come back. I mean, for now, she really has to make sure to secure her own position. There's no way for her at all to apply any kind of counter pressure. I mean, she could just try it. It might just be the best thing to do. But it would be so risky to do. I mean, every step she does right now is risky. She cannot just sit back and wait until she's gathered a big enough army. I mean, in the meantime, Novea can just take the entire map, getting her economy up, getting better upgrades, getting higher tech units, eventually getting into tier 3 units. So, yeah, Sylvanas just needs to do something right now, but at the same time not losing her own units. Unfortunately, the tanks even standing in front of the army, but Novea just moving in with mostly a move command before finally attacking. Still, it seems as if it's not enough, destroying the tanks with the Biles. Now we'll even be able to just move out of the liberation zone, killing off another tank over here. The next round of Bile shots will just easily kill the first Liberator, will just easily kill the next Liberator. And like I said before, I mean, Novea doesn't even have to take that fight convincingly. She just needs to destroy everything that Sylvanas sends at her. Now even losing the 3rd base. This is the last blow. And GG's out. Novea ties the series 1-1. Vani Research Station is our 3rd map of this best of 5, spawning to the bottom half, the bottom middle of the map is our Red Terran Sylvanas. And to the top we have our Teal Zerg NoveaStar. Vani Research Station, the map with the backdoor expansion, or the back pocket expansion, as it's also sometimes referred to, which usually makes it very easy to just take a natural base, because the only ramp you have to defend early on is this very small choke over here. Of course, drops are a possibility, like crazy. You have a wide open space where you can just drop units. You also, again, have space in the back, so Liberators often become an issue. Same over here, easy way to park a Liberator. And the same over here as well, easy to park a Liberator. So yeah, this map really drop friendly and Liberator friendly as well. We'll see if Sylvanas will actually make use of it, going for what it seems, yeah, the command center first actually, and this is something you can just do on this map specifically, since like I said before, the only real ramp you have to take care about is the main ramp, and it's easily sealed off even after having the command center planted down. Novea just going with the actual Heart of the Swarm tactic of putting the first hatchery not in the back pocket position, but planting it rather in front of the main base. It just helps with a few things. First thing it does, it helps to spread your creep towards your opponent a little bit easier. It also makes it a bit more difficult for your opponent to just get the information when your third base actually gets planted down, because at that point in time you can usually not send a worker in anymore, because there will be lings or roaches or queens or whatever just denying the scout. So you either have to scan or just send him some sort of air unit, that just comes out a little bit later. So yeah, that just makes it a little bit more difficult for the opponent to figure out what the Zerg player is doing. But yeah, the creep spread also, like I said, very important to get towards your opponent, because that's something you really want to do as a Zerg player. Getting creep out towards your opponent. You normally just don't want to expand towards your opponent, but the creep should always be directed that way. So, in the meantime, we have mass barracks play, no double barracks play into factory. So it seems that Sylvanas this time around just wants to go with her old build, getting a factory out, then getting a starboard. In the meantime, just getting more units in order to just drop them later on. So, Overlord flies in, we'll just see that the base has already been taken and is getting saturated. In the meantime, she might be able, no, she will probably not be able to fly inside the main base. Yeah, and she knows it, so just tries to move out. Will probably just get out alive. Yeah, the Marines are not fast enough, so Novea just saves the Overlord for now while taking a third base behind it. And in the meantime, we have the Overlord in a nice position here where we'll just be able to see most of these walking routes. But again, not covering the Xel'Naga Watchtower, which is, like I said, quite odd. I mean, you usually just put one ling there, it's just 25 minerals, and it's such a great worth to have these Xel'Naga towers, so I'm really wondering why she's not doing that. Otherwise, her scouting is just impeccable. I mean, just have a look at all the passive scouting here, the Overlord spread, Novea almost seeing everything, but yeah, this small little detail, just something I'm wondering about. Okay, there's the starport, we'll just produce probably, okay, no, first she switches it up, yeah, she needs 2 medevacs for her push, so in the meantime just producing a few more units here, might actually also get a mine out at the same time. So we'll see, she definitely has the resources for it, so there, oh, actually double Liberator, it's not, okay, never mind. It's not going to be Marine Drop. I was actually wondering, since she wasn't really keeping up with the Marine production, so it might have been a little bit problematic to just, or maybe not having enough Marines out once these medevacs pop, but yeah, the Liberators take a little bit longer there. No mine actually in the mix, yeah, I think she will rely on the starport. This might actually be a nice idea, maybe zoning out the units so with the Liberators, so just putting a Liberation Zone, or maybe even 2, onto that ramp, so if units try to get out, they would just get shot immediately, making it almost impossible to just secure this base down here. And yeah, the other thing I'm really missing is like a ling right in front of that base, so that she will be able to see once the units move out. Maybe she's not expecting a normal move out using the land route, and she's probably just expecting some sort of air move out. Okay, hopefully she has just seen the Liberator passing by that Overlord. I mean, it has been in sight for quite some time, so if Novea actually was watching what her opponent was doing, she should be aware of that. But the main force might probably just move out and will be unseen up towards half the map, and then it will just actually move on towards that base, maybe even able to take it out before Novea actually realizes what's happening. So the Liberator, like I said before, I mean, this is a good map for Liberator usage, and there we have it, open airspace. The Liberator just sieging up here, denying mining from these 2 mineral fields over here. Yeah, Spore Crawler will just get in position, but I don't see that this is like close enough to it. Okay, other Liberator also moves in, just kills 3 drones over here. In the meantime, Sylvanas just preparing for what seems to be a 2-base push. No, there's a 3rd base already up. So okay, she's just already preparing the barracks for the bigger income once this command center has flown out and starts mining. And then the mineral boost will just make it possible for her to actually construct out of all these buildings, but she wants to have them up before that happens. And okay, now there is the drop. So okay, quite interesting. I really was thinking that she might go out for a normal full-out assault, but yeah, she just uses the she just uses the Liberators here in order to be kind of a nuisance, and she has been quite a lot. 11 drones have already died. This Liberator over here has not even been cleared. But like I said, I mean, as these Ravagers just waddle around trying to get rid of that Liberator threat here, Sylvanas could actually just easily move in, not using another drop of medevacs in order to get here where the Ravagers now are, where they can just help out defending right away. But if she had just moved in at the same time while the Ravagers were trying to clear off that, I think she could have just done tremendous amounts of damage. Thus, but now, of course, these medevacs unfortunately were just, well, they are not wasted resources at all, because they can just fly back and attack later on, but they didn't really gain her any good right at that moment, although of course she's already managed to deal quite some significant amounts of damage already. This base is finally getting fully saturated here, but I think Novea would have loved to be saturated at the around 5-minute mark already, or the 6-minute mark, but not the 7-minute mark, almost 2 minutes later. I think Novea would have really loved to just start unit production right now. It takes the 4th base over here, which is a gold expansion. Not really that necessary for her if she still wants to go into Roach Ravager Hydra once more, because minerals are not really the limiting factor then. It's mostly the gases that she needs, and the normal mineral income of 4 bases would still suffice her, so it's not really a necessity to get the gold base up in order to build the amount of units she really wants to have. So, wow, fuck ton of Ravagers already, while Sylvanas now finally moves out right through the middle. Overlord just spots it but gets shot down. Nice little scan there by Sylvanas. She really wants to see what her opponent is doing. Just drops over here, kills the 4th base, but it gets cancelled, so at least Novea doesn't really lose all the resources here. And now, of course, Novea just has to make a very difficult decision. Just takes out the Liberators pretty easily here. That was, of course, a nice shot over here. But now, like I said, she has to make the decision. Does she want to secure her base over here because the drop is incoming and she saw it coming? Or does she just stay here in order to defend against the main army? And it feels as if Novea, of course, will be now able to just drive away the main army here, but the big damage is being dealt right behind it. I mean, it's mostly only roaches and a few queens over here. The 3rd base actually dies, and this is a really big hit already for Sylvanas, who hasn't taken the supply lead yet because her opponent has just been able to mass produce Roach Ravager like crazy. And she has to fear the counter push, I feel. She only has 1 siege tank right here. It has 2 more siege tanks inside the medevac. Really needs to unload it. Sylvanas, please. Ah, there we go. There she goes. Very nice. So the siege tanks are out, needs to be sieged, of course, and the army is coming from the left-hand side, so siege tanks won't really cover all of it. Well, now they will, once they get sieged, but they're not sieged up now, so the army of Novea actually moves in. Nice spreading there by Sylvanas, getting a huge concave with everything. The tanks die almost in an instant before they can actually even siege up. Now 1 siege tank is up, but the bio force is just overwhelming. Look at that DPS driving away the army of Novea, and I feel that this was actually the only push that Novea had in her. I mean, she's desperately trying to get her 3rd and 4th base up at the same time, but in the meantime her mineral income just has been so much lower than that of her opponents. And as we've seen before, Sylvanas had already taken precautions in order to get up her production way before she would get that 3rd base, so she can now macro like crazy, pushing over towards the other half of the map. It's still a lot of Ravagers in production, but the army force of the sheer biomass will just probably easily wipe out most of these Ravager forces, unless of course she stands in some bile shots, but she doesn't. The bile shots mostly being used to rain down on the tanks here, so Sylvanas just for now has to retreat a little bit, but again she's just dealt some damage and has also sent out a few Marines over to the 4th base. Will again easily be able to take it down. Yeah, medevac just moving a little bit out of the fray here, just obviously wanted to drop some more units that weren't even there. And again, the 4th base just gets taken down, and now Sylvanas actually being up 1 base, just rallying more and more units across the map. Novea just definitely knew that she couldn't really retreat her units from the main front, because otherwise Sylvanas' units would have just moved in, killed off her mining base over here. But yeah, she just needs something in order to defend this 3rd and 4th base, because staying on 3 bases for much longer will just hurt her economy so much, especially since Sylvanas now prepares to take a 4th. But I feel that Novea might even not be able to take out that 4th. Sylvanas is on 2-2 and +1 for the tanks. Ugh, tanks a little bit exposed here, so maybe actually Novea might be able to just get the big threats out of the way, but there's of course still a Liberator and the Bioforce, where Sylvanas can now just stim in and chase this army and kill everything off. Yeah, has to be careful not to stand right on the biles. Okay, gets a few big bile shots, but it doesn't matter anymore. Novea GG's out, and Sylvanas takes the 2-1 lead. Newkirk Precinct is our 4th map. spawning to the top left-hand, to the bottom left-hand corner in teal, it's NoveaStar. And to the bottom right in red, we have Sylvanas playing Terran, as you all can obviously see, throwing down her first supply depot. New Precinct, another Heart of the Swarm map. It was redesigned a little bit, and I don't think only for Legacy of the Void, but it also got redesigned for Heart of the Swarm already. There used to be a time when like this whole area here was not even there, but there was only one pathway where you could walk towards your opponent, and then there was a watchtower down here where you could actually just have a look at it. And you could also still take the longer route in order to get to your opponent's bases unseen, but yeah, it just took quite a long time. We have usually easy to take natural base with a middle wide open ramp, and then the third base can either be taken down here, it's a little bit closer by and thus easier to defend, or you can just try to take the other third base, which is a little bit further away but a little bit more hidden and not as exposed towards frontline attacks. So we'll see which base these players eventually want to take. And of course we have to talk about that air route over here where you can just easily get access towards your opponent's main base. It's kind of far, but not really that far apart. So air attacks and using air routes, definitely something we might even be able to see. So Sylvanas has pretty early on seen that there's no base down here at all, and that's because Novea just wants to go for some Baneling bust cheese, channeling her inner Suno Kazri against Terran. Yeah, but I mean, this has been a huge giveaway. I mean, Sylvanas just sniffed it out. Has actually even sent the SEV out this time around before... Oh, no, not this time around. She actually used to do this all of the games. So Sylvanas just sniffed out everything right away, now even sending in the SEV once more. Sees the Baneling nest right away. I mean, she's already preparing for everything. But yeah, she definitely knows what's up. Even gets the Reaper back because she knows she doesn't need to scout now. She just needs every unit she can get. Plants down a bunker over here, has the reactor in position, will now be able to just double produce Marines, gets the factory down actually, so it seems as if she wants to get either mines out or tanks, but I think they will not be available early enough to fend off that first wave of attack. So let's see, getting some reinforcing structures behind the weak supply depots. I feel that she should also get a few more units over here. I mean, with enough Zerglings, you can just bust this and then just run through into the mineral line. And since your opponent will not have that many units around it, the bunkers over here don't really matter if you have to defend your base somewhere back here where the bunkers are not. So what you usually just want to do is either defend or have some defensive bunkers back there. Ooh, okay, Novea just blasts through, has a big gaping hole. But yeah, there's actually the red problem. She doesn't really want to fight right in the middle of the bunkers. So good move here by Sylvanas actually, just yeah, getting this wall closed once more, moving the units out of the bunkers. And unfortunately for Novea, she didn't even go right into the mineral line using her links and just being annoying, but she tried to hide them behind here, morphing them into banelings and then just making a little bit more damage. But yeah, I mean, it was pretty clear that once the links didn't run into the mineral line, that they were morphing into banelings somewhere, so they easily got caught and shot off. And from here on out, I don't really feel that Novea actually is in a good position. I mean, Sylvanas still has her base out here. She can't really attack into this Link Baneling force for now, so she is in some sort of soft contain while Novea is actually trying to take her own base. But Novea is already so far behind in drones. I mean, one base Baneling bust is not called an all-in for no reason. So yeah, again, Novea just sending across the map all of her forces. They all get destroyed, actually obliterated, you really have to say. Now finally the siege tank is out for the second wave, and with the siege tank being out, there's not much of a chance for Novea to actually attack anything anymore. So the orbital command just moves out, she will see how many units are out there, and then she will just get all of her units and move them downwards the ramp, finally securing that base. But yeah, in the meantime, Novea just realized that she won't really be able to get in, has tried to at least get up to the same amount of workers that her opponent has, but still it's the big problem. I mean, she's only on the same amount of bases and the same amount of workers, and this command center has also gathered a lot of energy, so it will be able to just throw down mules like crazy in just a second, so the income will still be better for Sylvanas once she's finally transferred a few of her workers down here. She also has the better tech up already, she's already getting a third command center as well, and there's not much that Novea can actually do against it because she has been busy droning so heavily. So I feel like the next big engagement will just very problematic for her to hold. But we'll see, maybe she can make some magic happening. Double engineering bay also going up for Sylvanas, getting the barracks at the tech lab expansion here, so she will be able to then just finally get stim. That's actually the only thing that's going for Novea right now. I feel that she managed to delay stim for quite some time, is now trying to take a third base. I mean, she needs to be super greedy, there's just nothing else she can do. Just being greedy as fuck and crossing fingers that your opponent won't attack you or will not seriously attack you with something, with anything actually, until like the 9 to 10 minute mark, and then you might just get yourself back into the game. So Sylvanas just flies in, sees that no, doesn't actually see the third base has been taken. Okay, quite interesting. I don't know why she moved back. Maybe that was just a misclick there, it seems to be, because that didn't really make sense. Okay, now realizes that they're the third base, starting to attack it. There's actually, is there a lair out already? Okay, there is, so there's at least the possibility to detect this Banshee once it gets cloaked, and it does have cloak. So third command base, the third command center is ready. Starport flying over towards the factory space, so after this mine has been produced, these buildings can switch, and the double medevac production will start for Sylvanas. And yeah, right now it actually seems as if Sylvanas might be able to just take down that third hatchery with like the help of one and later on two Banshees. Yeah, two Banshees now just dealing terrible damage towards that hatchery, and there's actually not enough anti-air even to make this go away. And even if she just moves out with these units, like I said before, Ravager shots should actually never ever hit Banshees, and they can also in addition cloak, and there wasn't even some detection in place ready to do that. So yeah, these Banshees totally worth the investment, and the Overseers might be out now, but actually, like I said before, I mean, there's not even something that can really hit them very well. Yeah, Sylvanas just cloaking, taking out the first queen, maybe even. Has to be careful of that Spork roll and turns around. But yeah, could maybe even just fly into the main base, maybe killing off an evolution chamber here or there. But of course, that's always a little bit risky, because if you then want to actually take down a building, it takes a lot longer. So your Banshees have to actually stay at the same position for quite some time, and you can't really be there watching them all the time. So then, of course, Ravager shots might just hit you and take you down. That's just not what you want. But yeah, I mean, again, Sylvanas just being infinitely ahead already, having taken her third base, just throwing down the mules like crazy. Her income is just way better. It's not only the income that's missing for Novea down here, it's also the production capabilities, since without a third hatchery, she doesn't, and not even a third hatchery like in her main base, like a macro hatch or something, she doesn't really have the possibility to produce a lot of lava. And then, of course, the income is also a problem, because even if she has a lot of lava, she just doesn't have the resources in order to spend them, which is also something you don't want to have. And I feel that, yeah, actually, if Novea really wants to stand a chance, she actually needed to double expand right now, and again, just crossing her fingers, hoping that the next push will be one she can hold quite significantly, with like maybe a good engagement before her opponent can actually siege up or deal too many damage to her. But I really doubt that she will be able to do that. I mean, it's 1-1 upgrades already finished. Yeah, so Villains has to be careful before she steps onto creep. Yeah, usually you just want to siege your tank right at the edges of the creep, or maybe leapfrogging later on if you can, which is what she does right now. So yeah, the siege tank here, like I said, just sieging up right at the spread of the creep. I think she hasn't realized yet that the third base has been taken back here. And Novea actually has quite a scary army already over here. Ooh, unfortunately, this siege tank right out of position at that moment once the units just try to move in. Okay, Banshee helping out, killing some creep, Bio advances, and this is of course a difficult situation now for Novea. Has to be careful once she moves in. She has to take out both the Bio army as well as the siege tanks, and she might actually be able to get all of those. So, like I said before, that was actually the engagement that NoveaStar needed very desperately here. So now both are on equal supplies army-wise, but the army that Novea has actually dishes out quite some damage and also can tank some damage as well. So right now it's a little bit threatening here. Okay, Sylvanas, okay, just for a moment seems as if she wanted to apply some counter pressure, or was just a misclick into the Medivacs here. Okay, siege tank not sieged up. Ooh, probably eating some bile shots here, but not all too problematic ones. Liberators are out as well. Liberation zones just getting set up, and Novea is on a full-out retreat. Unfortunately, just giving away the advantage by a little bit here. I feel that the best thing she could have done after denying that push would have been just to lay back a little bit, producing maybe some units for a next push that is eventually going to happen, and then just try to get up her bases. But the problem right now is, again, she has to fight this big-ass army, and she has to take it out convincingly. But this time around, Terran just has so much more firepower in the army. Just has to retreat a little bit, tank gets taken out, which is of course a little success here. Sylvanas eating, no, actually not eating any bioshots at all. Very nice micro here, now getting taken, okay, one gets taken out, but again, it just doesn't really matter that much for Sylvanas anymore. Any unit she takes out is a unit that Novea can't really replace, since her third base has never really been saturated at all. So yeah, she can just afford to lose these units over here. It doesn't really matter that much, of course. It's always a bit wasteful to lose too much and not to retreat in time, but the point, the tipping point, or to see the tipping point of the fight is a really difficult thing to do. So yeah, Sylvanas might have overextended a little bit, but it was not really the biggest problem at all. Like I said before, she knew that she could waste these units partly, as long as she just took out enough units of Novea's. Because that's now the cycle that's going on. Novea just needs more units in order to fend off the incoming and again incoming attacks of Sylvanas, which doesn't give her the chance to actually get her economy up. And at one point in time, Sylvanas will just have whittled down both army and economy of NoveaStar, because Novea will still sit on two bases with just no income whatsoever anymore, and then at some point in time she just will not have enough units in order to keep these pushes from happening. And maybe even not that one. So if we just have a look at this, and there's the rest of the army now incoming as well, so there are the reinforcements just crossing the map. And again, even if Novea, yeah, like I said, Sylvanas just being a little bit more wasteful than she actually maybe wants to be. And in the meantime, actually Novea just managed to sneak in either a few more workers, or she just transferred a few. Yeah, probably that's just what she did. So her income is kinda okay-ish for now. But yeah, Sylvanas has already taken a fourth base as well behind it, so Novea again just being behind one base, and will probably be for the remainder of the game. Nice little dodging there with a siege tank, and yeah, this should probably be it if I feel it correctly. I mean, Ravager's just getting morphed in, but you see how dry the economy of NoveaStar just is. 46 army supply to 85, more and more red units crossing the map, gathering together right in front of Novea's natural base here, now just moving in, leapfrogging the tanks a little bit, and at some point, yeah, Novea just getting into a good position where she just stands between the main army and the reinforcements. So if the reinforcements want to get out, they have to pass Sylvanas' army, and that is GG. Novea quits, and Sylvanas takes the series 3-1.